All right, so thank you for tuning in to Chomping the Bit. Now, Kyle Edwards, of course, you already knew that, but before I get into today's topic, I guess, I just want to say, if you're new, first time checking me out, appreciate, hopefully you enjoy the episode. If you do, you'll subscribe and all that, listen to future episodes, you go back, take a listen to some previous ones, and so with that, as you can tell from the title, I'm going to be talking about this whole Kevin Durant, Boston Celtics situation. I find it fascinating because of all of the, I guess what seems like misinformation, or I don't know. It just seems like there's like two extreme sides to the story, and you kind of have to try to wade in the middle of it to figure out what's really going on. So I'm going to give you my thoughts on KD, Celtics, all that. And so then by the end of the episode, maybe I can give you some clarity, or maybe you think my opinion on the whole situation makes sense. But of course, if not, let me know, comment section, or if you do follow me on Twitter, let me know over there, and we can have a nice little debate about it. So, with that, I think we should go ahead and get into this topic right now. So, if you haven't been, I guess, keeping up with the whole story, so basically for the past couple of weeks, it's been reported by various people that the Celtics are a leading candidate to acquire Kevin Durant, or they put forth the best package so far for Kevin Durant, or they're the leaders in the clubhouse because they have the best available assets to offer to Brooklyn for Kevin Durant. Kind of all sides of what's been reported, and I guess recently some of the stuff that's been coming out has made me kind of believe a certain way, which I'll get into here in a moment or so. But I want to step back to one thing that happened after the season when the Celtics lost in the finals to the Warriors. Brad Stevens, who's the new, chief operator of basketball operations or something like that, he did an interview with Celtics media group, and the main point that I took from that interview, he talked about that lack of depth being the reason why they lost in the finals. And I understand where he's coming from, because they were relying on guys like Grant Williams, Peyton Pritchard, Aaron Nesmith. You had Rob Williams with basically one good leg. You had Al Horford, who's up there in years, that you were relying on key situations. So Brad Stevens made it clear that his plan was to kind of elongate the bench and the rotation with more established guys. And we've seen that through the offseason, where he went out and got Danilo Gallinari as a bench scorer. He got Malcolm Brogdon as a playmaking guard who, in late game situations, you can put the ball in his hands and let him operate the offense, or whatever Udoka wants to use him. So it seemed like shortly after that was the report about the Celtics offering Jaylen Brown, Derek White first round picks for Kevin Durant. I found it a little odd then, because that kind of seems like it's contradicting what Brad Stevens had said about bench depth and, depth of the team, and wanting to strengthen that. Now I get it. Kevin Durant is a, generational talent, all that kind of stuff. He is a little up there in age now, but I get it. So now some time has passed, and then kind of went back and forth, where you heard people reporting about, possibly Marcus Smart being offered and Brooklyn wants him. So they're saying like Brooklyn turned down the Jaylen Brown, Derek White offer because Brooklyn wants Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart. Which once again doesn't seem to make sense because it seems like to me that Marcus Smart is a Brad Stevens guy and I think a Udoka guy. Once again, I get it. Kevin Durant, blah, blah, blah. So now recently what's come out is that supposedly now Brooklyn asked for Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. I couldn't say that with a straight face. For Durant, amongst other things, which obviously the Celtics said no to. So to me, that lets me know that if that's where Brooklyn was coming from on their side of the negotiation, clearly they're not serious about it because there's no way Brad Stevens was going to okay Tatum and Brown for Durant. So like I'm saying, that leads you to believe that I think it was a Steve Bullpett, who's a Boston area reporter. He actually reported that Jaylen Brown was never offered by the Celtics to Brooklyn, and that a lot of this is just noise coming from the Nets camp for whatever reason, whether it's to maybe drive up the prices of other teams who were involved, which I'll get into in a little bit, or whatever. Maybe they were just trying to create a rift within the Celtics locker room or something, for all I know, because the Celtics were the ones that went up against Brooklyn in the playoffs and swept them. So obviously that had to hurt Nets officials and all that. So it's a crazy story, and it keeps getting weirder and weirder by the day. Because once again, take it back to last year. Remember when Brooklyn signed Steve Nash on to be the coach? We got that stupid press conference with Kyrie and Durant where Kyrie's coming out talking about how, they don't really need a head coach because, he could be the coach on the floor, Durant could be the coach on the floor, or whatever. So now fast forward to now, where Durant, apparently the latest is, he had a meeting with Brooklyn and gave an ultimatum about either he goes or Steve Nash and Sean Marks, who's the GM, they go. Which, once again, what sense does that make? So Steve Nash gets hired, you guys are diminishing his role, saying you don't even need a coach, but now they're going to put everything on Nash for the failures of last season, which is, don't get me wrong, Steve Nash wasn't the greatest coach. It was also his first year, so for all we know, maybe he does better this year. I don't know. But if I'm going to pinpoint Brooklyn's failures from last year, or this whole space of time with Durant and Kyrie being in Brooklyn, I would pinpoint it to those two because it's been availability. Remember when Durant went through the first year, he didn't play all year because he was recovering from the Achilles injury, which, those made sense. But now, this past year, we had all the sideshow with Kyrie and the vaccine and all that, so his availability was limited. And we saw the effects of that on James Harden for leaving because he didn't really want to deal with Kyrie being a part-time guy. Then in the playoffs, what happened? Kyrie basically, he basically checked out after the first game. So I'm not going to pin that on Steve Nash for what happened there. Now, Sean Marks, you can put some blame on him because that whole, situation with DeAndre Jordan, where they gave DeAndre Jordan way too much to go there just because he was buddies with Kyrie and KD. I guess you could blame him for that. But then if you look around the league, a lot of teams do that for their superstars. Just another side note that I find it funny with a lot of these TV analysts and stuff, they'll vault players into the superstar category, and then once they're there, it seems like, at least for some of them, they're above criticism or anything like that. Now, in this case, I think some people are turning around to the fact that, Durant and Kyrie clearly are more of a headache than maybe is worth it at this point. I think Kyrie more so, but it's an interesting story. Like I said, I don't believe that Brad Stevens is looking to trade Jaylen Brown, because once again, like I said, there's been days throughout this whole thing where we've seen stories of people talking about Brown is basically on the off limits list with Tatum. But then again, also I can't blame Brooklyn, I guess, for throwing it out there, an offer for Brown and Tatum just to see. Because that kind of goes back to my whole point, my whole thought with this whole thing with Durant. Durant has 4 more years on his contract with Brooklyn. Technically, Brooklyn doesn't have to do a thing, because worst case scenario, is Durant going to sit out 4 years when he's at the end of his career, seemingly? What's it, like 33, 34? So if he sits out the next 4 years because he doesn't want to be in Brooklyn, he's not going to come back after a 4-year break at 38 and play? I doubt it. So Brooklyn could call Durant's bluff in all of this, keep the staff the way it is, and then once the regular season rolls around, see what Durant's going to do. And if it's me, I think at this point, that's where they should go with it. Now, I know that they're supposedly shopping Kyrie. That aspect of the story, I understand that. If I'm Joe Tsai, I look to move on from Kyrie, get what I can for him. But Durant, you made the commitment to him. I feel like Brooklyn shouldn't be pressured into doing something because Durant came out with a trade request. So, like I said, it's a fascinating story to me. I do think it's going to go on for a while now, because we're in the early part of August. There's really no need for a deal to happen now, if there is one that's going to happen. But, with the season starting in October, training camps open September, maybe early September we start hearing some more. But yeah, so I guess the very last part of the story I'll get into is now there's the report that Durant is now open. Well, I guess Philly's on his list of teams he wants to go to I guess possibly reunite with James Harden. The same James Harden who was in Brooklyn and was pushed away because of Kyrie. So I'm assuming Durant maybe saw the frustrations there. Why didn't Durant use his power that he's trying to use now and get the team to move Kyrie last year? If, as it seems, he more wants to play with Harden than Kyrie right now. And I think so this is my very last point now. I think the overarching story behind all this is, with all of this uncertainty coming from the Brooklyn camp, kind of on what Durant's main goal is in all this, where is his headspace, all that, I think it's actually ruining his value around the league, because now I believe a lot of teams aren't going to want to throw away their future in terms of draft picks and young players to get Durant when you're not even sure, with the 4 years left on the deal, he could turn around next year and find some little issue in your team and then want to be gone from there too. Maybe he doesn't like the coach you have there. He doesn't like your GM. He doesn't like some of the players on your team while he goes there. So now you would have given up your future with a bunch of draft picks and young players for this one guy. And then if he turns around and doesn't like your organization, now you're kind of stuck looking dumb. And then maybe you're in a situation like Brooklyn is this year, next year, where you're dealing with him constantly saying stuff. And then you have to weigh whether you want to deal with it or not, or just move on from him, wipe your hands, and figure it out from there. I don't know. There's just some athletes that have this effect where you kind of wish they weren't so sensitive or they didn't talk so much. Not the whole, shut up and play and all that kind of stuff. I'm not talking about that, but for past few years with Durant, it's just like a non-stop soap opera with him. He's in Golden State. Seems like that was the best place for him. He got all hot and bothered because he wasn't getting credit. He didn't really force himself out of there, but he didn't re-sign there. And it seems like now it almost comes across that he's got buyer's remorse from leaving there. And now he can't get comfortable anywhere that he is right now. And that is a scary situation for a lot of these teams because, like I said earlier in the episode, Philly supposedly is a team he's interested in. Miami's a team he's interested in. Toronto, Boston. Why would any of those four teams give up young assets and the 4 or 5 draft picks that Brooklyn wants for this guy? One, Celtics just made it to the finals without him. That's a pretty big step to take to then break that all up to get him. And there's no guarantee you're going to win a title with him. Because like I said, he's getting older. We don't know. His body could break down. So, as I keep saying, fascinating story. Of course, when there's more updates, or if there's ever a Durant deal at some point, or for all we know, he may rescind the trade request one day because he wakes up and feels that way. I don't know, but if something does happen, of course I will come back with another episode about it. But yeah, I guess that's the story of the superstar of today. There's just so much more that goes into it, more than just play on the field. Now it's ego, it's social media, and all these other variables that get thrown into the pot where you just don't know. And a lot of these teams feel handcuffed by it and kind of bend over backwards for some of these players. And they get nothing in return from it. They may not get a title out of it. Nothing. But yeah, so let me know what you think. Are you of the mindset like me that I don't think Durant's actually going to end up going anywhere? I don't know what his whole end game was with all this, but I just think he's going to end up on Brooklyn to start next season. So if you feel like me, let me know. If you think he's going to get traded, where do you think he's going to go? And would you want him on your team if it cost you, let's say, 3 rotation players and 5 draft picks? Let me know. But thanks again for tuning in. Hopefully you enjoyed the episode. If you did, you know what to do. Hit the like button, subscribe. Also share it with somebody you know. Help me out. That would really help me out. If you go over to Twitter, if you are on Twitter, go over there, go to @ChompinPodcast and follow me there, and we can, talk a little bit more about this over there. But appreciate you tuning in. Yeah, I don't think I left anything out, so we'll just go ahead with be safe out there. God bless, And I will catch you on the next episode. All right. Have a good one. I'm out.